And that shot is amazing. When that truck is just speeding towards it. And it's one of those shots where I'm like, how did you guys pull this off? Because it gets so close. Maybe you just shot it on the really long lens, but it gets so close to the telephone booth
and it's
before
moving.
It's super fast.
And Dennis Weaver, now that's a stunt man.
Yeah.
The guy diving out of the phone booth.
I'd like to report a truck driver that's been endangering my life.
Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg's feature film debut, Duel, from 1971. So Duel follows a business commuter out. And what's that area? This is up by like the 18 or something?
Yeah, just east of here.
Yeah.
Just
not
east.
too far.
No.
And
not over the Sierra Madres yet.
Yeah.
Like sort of that San Bernardino, like right heck out my area, you know.
And so this business guy, played by Dennis Weaver, just gets in a little scuffle with a massive like fuel truck driver.
Truck.
Yeah. And this kind of chase and road games and road rage little story ensues. And this was my first time seeing it. Okay. And I picked this one because I bought the Blu-ray a while back and I just never had time. And I was like, all right, this is how I'm going to make time. I'll make it part of the show. And I know it started off as a TV movie first, actually, before it even got a theatrical release. Did you happen to catch this when it first premiered?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. And I enjoyed it then, but in those days, they had disaster movies. Mm-hmm. And this was just another one of those kind of like a disaster movie. It wasn't like a whole cruise ship turned over or something, but it was that genre of like, not monster movie fear, but, you know, real life fear, something, circumstance that would happen to you. And we all know about road rage and we all know about what can happen out on the road. Yeah. You know, I love Lost Highway, the movie Lost Highway. And maybe we'll take a look at that one day, you know. But here's just Everyman. And Dennis Weaver was such an everyman, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was just he wasn't big and strong. He wasn't little and mousy. He's just a guy. Yeah. You know, and he's in his little 4-door Plymouth Valiant, probably had that 225 slant 6 in there, being that was 71. And he's just going to meet some account customer. He had to see him off before he went away on vacation or something. And he innocently just goes out. He gets on the road and there's this big smelly truck, really filthy and belching out diesel fuel. It was a inline 6 turbo diesel, that truck, you know? Yeah. And belching out fumes. And he even says, boy, talk about pollution. Yeah. You know? And this is before they had catalytic converters. This is 71. Right. You know, we were riding around with 427 Corvettes and stuff, right? We didn't care. So he just gets an opportunity and he passes the guy. And no sooner does he pass the guy's right on his tail and he passes him. Yeah. And he's like, my God, I don't want to be behind this filthy thing. But he did not have a fast car. It wasn't like now. Those little F78 dual ply tires, they were not high speed. You couldn't take that thing in the desert and go 80 miles an hour. You'd blow a tire. So he's stuck in between. Does he want to pass him again or what can happen? But pretty soon, an adversarial relationship. And my favorite part was when the truck driver leans out the window when he waves him around. Yeah. And as soon as he comes in the lane, there's a van coming right at him. Yeah. So he knows this guy's messing with him. Yeah. You know, this guy's going to hurt him. He's in a hurry. He wants to meet this client because if he doesn't meet him, he may lose a large account. So it's important to him and he's got to get there. He doesn't have time to monkey around. You know, you'd think, well, just pull over and give the guy 10 minutes and, you know, it'll be like that. But he really couldn't afford that at first. Yeah. After a while, he was resigned to the fact that there was no way, you know, and he had the classic situation where he wanted to pass the truck, but the truck was waving back and forth. And this is a long, big tractor trailer. Yeah. You know, so there's no way he can get around them and just terrible. And that was after, like, before he realized it was really bad, because there was a point where, you know, the truck's messing with him. And then later when he's on the road, he actually lets the truck pass him. Right. And that was that point where, like, then the truck slows down even more. Yeah, he was down to like 20 miles an hour. Yeah, so he's like, all right, now I've got to go around this guy. And yeah, he's waving in. That was a good moment when he's going to let him pass, but it was just a
a ruse because that other car was coming his way. It's a really interesting story and something to make a movie about. You know, it's not very dialogue heavy at all.
No,
I mean,
no.
if it, there'd be almost no talking in it if it weren't for his voiceover of him. You know, there's a lot of voiceover of what's going through his mind. You know,
and he
how
does
he's
have stops like at the cafe and stuff.
Yeah, the gas station, and talks to his wife, and we see that.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. But the thing that got me in the film was the loneliness of it. Mm-hmm. He was really alone out there with this nemesis. Mm-hmm. You know, you're being stalked by a bear, right? You're alone in the woods. Like the level of loneliness for this guy. He had no friends. Even when he tried to talk to people and stuff, even when he called his wife.
Yeah.
This guy, he just is a guy, he's alone, he's on his own, and somebody's after him. He's involved in a fight. Now, before this even started, right when he was leaving town and he was still like going through Los Angeles, the cars. I love these old car movies, you know? And you could see the cars from that era, and it struck me how sad it is that they're not preserved.
Right.
Now, an antique car is a real big deal. In those days, people thought nothing of these cars. They get it for 2 or 3 years, get rid of it, get a new one, give it to some kid, they have in the junkyard. Those cars had a life expectancy of 100,000 miles and not more. And you needed like a new engine after that. They really were flimsy. And it just was interesting to me that it's the same way now. It's easy to manufacture something, but impossible to fix it. You can get another one of these, no problem. You want to have this thing fixed?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? And TVs, they used to have TV repairman. A guy would come to your home, put different tubes and transformers and stuff in your TV. Now you just get a new TV. You wouldn't even think of like fixing a TV.
Yeah.
Just go to, go get a new one, right? So the fact that these cars, when some of these, million Mustangs, right? Like they made these things. It was easier to make it than it was to fix it. It just struck me. It was such a shame to see these beautiful things that somebody designed, manufactured. These companies went through all the trouble to design it, and all the things that go into that. And those when cars were pretty simple.
Right.
And I see it today. People, brand new car, just throw it in the driveway, leaves are on it, and they didn't wash it, year-old car, a couple of door dents and stuff. Yeah. It's tragically sad. The difference between manufacturing and maintaining. Everything's disposable. Yeah. So that was my first thing. That was my first impression in the movie. Then he heads out into the desert, and he gets out there, and then the next impression that was, you mentioned, he called his wife on the phone for no particular reason. He had bad feelings about an argument they had had the night before. Right. But what I find in life is that a lot of these spouses are unrealistic about their spouse. So he gets on the phone and she says, look, you promised you'd be home for dinner. This guy is the breadwinner. The only thing that matters that day is that he's with the client. Right. And if that client says, you know what, why don't you and I go out and have a steak or go see a stripper or have a drink or something, whatever that guy wants, that's the priority. Right. But she's just totally self-involved. Well, I want this and I want that, and you blah, 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 you know what I mean? And it's still now. The selfishness is unbelievable. When you have, and you see it at the highest level, like the guy's a manager of a hedge fund. Yeah. And as a woman, why aren't you spending time with the kids? Because I'm paying $100,000 in property taxes every year, and this is how I do it. Yeah. When you have a job and you're the breadwinner, you're the sole breadwinner, that is it. Right. That's the most important thing for both people. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't make any money, she doesn't make any money. And she's got a problem. Yeah, there goes the house. Then you're a miserable man. You're a poor excuse for a man, right? Yeah. And that dynamic was shown. Yeah. And I resent that. People don't appreciate what other people do for them. And it's in all walks of life. Like people, like a repairman comes, you're not happy. It's a guy came to your house to fix your thing, right? Or you need to respect that because you can't do it. Yeah. Most of these jobs that you hire people, if you had to do it, you couldn't do it in 10 years. So those were some of my big early takeaways, almost without even talking about the movie yet. Right. But it was interesting that was included. It meant a lot to me.
Very efficiently done, that phone call with his wife and that kind of roller coaster they go on of him. If I remember correctly, I've only seen it the one time. Like he was, and you said this, apologizing to her because he didn't like the way things left off. So started positive, and then she got on his case real quick.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to set him up because now he's already in this mindset of like,
the stress.
Like before the, things have really gotten bad. And this was after the first.
He really called her because he needed contact with a loved one because he was just beat up on the road.
All right.
So it's like, honey, I'm sorry for the way things went. That's not the way we went, you and me. We're not like that. And, and she's like, I don't want to talk about it. So now he's completely shot down. He's not going to get the love. He needed her to say, hey, you know what? I appreciate you.
Yeah. Right.
And then if he's appreciated, he could go out and fight the truck.
Yeah.
But now he's got to fight it alone. He's got nothing waiting for him home. He didn't even need to go home.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, all right, well, it's a fight to the death out here now. I don't care if I die, right? So it's really,
I did really love that shot of him on the phone and how the camera is pretty far away down the hall. And you see a little bit of the hatch to the washing machine, and even the lady coming and opening
the big, enormous lady,
she opens it just all in the foreground, and perfectly she opens it, and it's the circle, right, like the little window of the washer, and he's perfectly framed in the middle. And that was the second big moment of like, oh yeah, this is Spielberg framing composition right here, like just classic. This dude's got talent, and there's a lot of great shots.
We just went through that with the Hitchcock movie, right?
Yeah.
So back when I first saw this, and it was just a movie about a guy with a truck. It meant nothing more to me than that. I didn't know that. The guy was going to make E.T. and Schindler's List. And, So it's so great to review stuff because your appreciation is so much greater.
Right.
Yeah. And I really did.
Yeah, looking at it from, like a cinematographer perspective and director perspective too. I mean, because I'm really thinking, okay, how are we going to keep this moving and compelling with little to say? They're on the road. Like, how many different shots and angles can you get of the car to keep it interesting? But they do it. They do a good job. Him and his editors. I mean, they really made the truck look menacing, didn't they? Yeah.
Like they had to show the grill and the tires going and how dirty it was, and
just the whole overall design, like perfect, like the dirt, the grime of it. It looks like it's been through it, like it's just been driving nonstop for decades. I love the big flammable on the back too.
Yeah,
which you're really thinking they're planting the seed of you're going to get an explosion at some point in this movie. Doesn't quite happen. It does go over the cliff, but we don't get a big fire show, but I thought that was interesting. Right from the get-go, the very beginning, it's like, oh, there it is. There's the
the bomb. That thing is a rolling bomb on the road, And when they were racing next to the train, I thought they were going to try to cut, he was going to try to cut through, and then the train would come and the truck wouldn't make it, and something like that. But that drama, he pulled back from that. They were just next to the train.
Yeah.
And that was really something.
That was a great moment too of them at the train and the truck trying to just push him into it. Yeah, when they're stopped right there. And
a couple of things about that. First of all, he pulled up to the gate. The gate that comes down, ding, 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 ding. And but when the truck was behind him, Nelly was over here. He was like in the oncoming lane.
Right.
And somehow he moved over, like 8-10 feet, and I go, okay. And then during that sequence, the rear door window was down and then it was up. Yeah. And then it was down, so. I'm sure there's plenty of continuity issues in this one. Yeah. A lot. I caught a lot of that because I looked for it. I was really surprised that to find out that the writer, so this was based off a short story and then they made it into the movie. Then the screenplay and the short story was written by Richard Matheson, who did, the original, wrote the novel I Am Legend, a bunch of Twilight Zone episodes, one of the key sci-fi, kind of writers. And I had no clue that he wrote this and even wrote the screenplay and everything. So I thought that was very interesting that, it's
The dude who wrote Twilight Zone, like some of the biggest episodes.
Right. What goes on in the undercurrent of Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of extras, people who are extras, a lot of scenes, a lot of music clips and stuff. People, it's those same people, you know, and that's cool. That's the stuff we never know.
Yeah.
You know, I always look for the editors and the cameramen and stuff, how the stuntmen, especially, sometimes how many there are.
Right. Yeah.
And this was a movie that didn't seem like it had any stuntmen, but of course, some of those car scenes were, you know, they couldn't be Dennis Weaver. One of the scenes like that was he pulls over on the road and the truck pulls over and he decides he's going to go confront the driver and he starts to run down the highway and then the truck just goes just far enough away that he realizes he's never going to, he can't get away from that thing.
Yeah.
It really is like fighting a bear in the woods, like where he's there. You know, right there, like 100 feet away, looking at you, you're looking at him, the saliva's coming down.
Right.
And you know that you can't climb a tree. I mean, like it's an invincible.
It's just toying with you.
Yeah,
just
and this guy could go anywhere. His truck was a giant tank compared to that little flimsy car.
One thing I really appreciated too was it gets to a certain point, especially after the diner scene, which I think is really great and suspenseful, is you start, I mean, for me, I kind of started to feel like, all right, maybe he is just being a little paranoid, a little over the top. He's on edge dealing with his wife. He's missing the whole company meeting or whatever. But then we get to the, you know, the next point where I don't remember exactly what happens next, but obviously it keeps escalating further and further to the point where, you know, pushing him into the train, or even he parks somewhere, he hides for an hour and he's like, okay, I'm just going to chill for an hour. So he's going to be long gone, and he gets on the road again, and he's there waiting for him.
Right there. He waited too. And the thing that made that scene great was he tucks the car in, he hides the car, right? He takes a turn off and tucks it in there. And every time the truck was menacing to him, it honked that loud air horn, bap, 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 right? So he's hiding out for like an hour, and obviously it's the desert, you doze off real easily. And then he hears that bap, bap, and he jolts, but it's just the train going by. Yeah. You know, and he laughs at himself. Yeah. Like, you know, you scared yourself, like you're making too much of this. We'll go now. We'll go now. I'm never going to, you know, the day is shot. He's having a really bad day. I'm just going to go. And, you know, and that's when, no, you're not. Yeah. No, you're not. A couple hundred feet down the road, there he is. And what do? And he had no friends. The diner, they didn't like him, believe him. The gas, they didn't like him, believe him. When the bus was broken down with the kids, and he says, can you push it with your little Valiant, this whole giant school bus, right? Give me a jump start, push it with your car. And you would never be able to do that. Like,
I really feel his frustration too when he's like, well, it's caught. I told you this was going to happen. Right. Please don't get on the hood. Now I have to jump on the hood to get it
But even though he jumped on the hood, it had no dents.
Yeah,
you know?
and then he's trying to help the little kids and they're just not listening. That was really frustrating to me when they're just being complete
bratty.
Yeah, like very shitty towards him when he's, no, this guy's dangerous and just get out of the road. And
But then the monster truck push started the bus.
Saves the bus.
So the guy and the bus driver was like, I don't know what was wrong with that guy. This guy was a nice guy. It's like, don't do a good deed if you're the monster, right? The monster bailed out the truck, the bus full of kids. Yeah. So that was frustrating for him.
You know? I love how they frame the truck too as this kind of horror villain almost, you know?
Oh, it was
especially
pristine.
In that moment.
It was pristine. You know?
When it's in the tunnel, just silhouetted. And he's all freaked out because it's waiting there for him. And the headlights come on and just the sound revs up and it comes towards them. And man, that other great moment where we already know the truck's clearly trying to mess with him to a deadly degree. But when it gets to the point where he finally finds the phone and he's calling the police, and that shot is amazing. When that truck is just speeding towards it. And it's one of those shots where I'm like, how did you guys pull this off? Because it gets so close. Maybe you just shot on the really long lens, but it gets so close to the telephone booth.
And it's moving.
It's super fast.
And Dennis Weaver, now that's a stunt man. Yeah. The guy diving out of the phone booth.
But in that shot, you just hold it and then it gets like right outside it before they cut to the wide shot where like, here's the stunt guy and now we're going to crash through the phone booth. But man, what an amazing shot
and that
that.
truck destroys that whole gas station and kills all the snake
animals.
You know?
That poor lady's just, man.
Why did he run over my snakes, you know?
Yeah, that was a really great moment. That's one of those.
And that's when I thought the pumps were going to explode and the truck was going to explode and everything. But no, truck got clean away.
Yeah.
And because it destroyed the phone booth, there was no phone to call the police.
Mm-hmm.
The guy says, call the police. He goes, the phone, you just destroyed the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh my God. You know, and how on earth did that guy in that truck know to come back and do that? And so the supernatural aspect of it is really in the movie, but not blatantly.
Yeah.
Like you realize that, you infer it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's something a little more here than meets the eye.
Yeah.
This truck, the guy driving it, whatever, they have some kind of intelligence, you know, like a little UFO something going on there. And that scene, the scene in the cafe that you mentioned before, well, he goes in the cafe and the truck now is there. Mm-hmm. So he realizes somebody in that cafe is driving that truck.
Yep.
And he looks at people and he looks at people.
Looking at the boots.
He decides which one it is. Mm-hmm. And he tells the guy, hey, knock it off. This isn't good. But he's the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. And the guy gets mad at him and punches him in the gut, which you could do in those days. Now you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But because
he did smack his food out of his hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just smacked his sandwich out of his hand. Yeah, that's.
I don't need this guy smacking a sandwich out of my boom, comes right back at him.
Yeah.
And then he sees him leaving. He's hurt, right? Mm. He sees him leaving. And the people in the diner are not sympathetic. They're like, oh, you poor guy or something. They're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
He sees the guy go, he realizes he's getting in the truck, but he doesn't get in the truck. He gets in a little pickup truck and drives away. So now the real guy is still in there with him. The guy doing this to him, right? And then nobody leaves the diner. He's there with everybody. And now the truck starts and drives away.
Yep.
So the guy was never in there. He was always sitting out there. So he went through all that hell where he was his own worst enemy.
Yes.
And you've been through that in your own life, because we all have, where you're thinking something's going to happen. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be bad. I'm going to have to punch my way out of this, or I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to brass it out and, whatever. And then in the end, nothing happens. The mail comes that day and it's not there, or the phone call never comes, or, that guy never comes down the street, or, I've had that too, where I had anxiety all day over something that never happened. Or it's even worse, where something good happens, where you're like, oh, I don't want to hear from this guy. I don't want to hear from this guy. I don't want to hear the phone rings and hello. And the guy goes, hey, Fred, yeah. Oh, man, we were nuts yesterday, huh? That was the worst thing. So listen, why don't you come on over to the house? It's like, everything's okay? You think the guy's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But he's not. He thought nothing of it. Or maybe he apologized to you. And you're like, oh my God. But then that's when you're mad at yourself for being your own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. Some people can let things roll off. Some people can't. But he was far too deep in trouble that his anxiety was real. But he didn't know what to do and how to handle that.
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you do that? Do you call the police from there? The guy's right there, maybe. Maybe the guy will kill you. Maybe he'll take out a gun, Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I happen to know that the guy who was actually in the truck was actually in that diner scene, the stuntman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the bigger, most handsome guy that looked at him, a cowboy hat or something.
Yeah, that they tried to make like, oh, it's obviously him because he was staring at him, but then it's not. He's the guy that goes to another vehicle, right?
Right, but the thing that got me with the continuity there was the truck driver, when you saw just his feet and he had the cowboy boots on, he had the really light buff-colored ones. And the guy sitting at the counter had like a cordovan color. Okay. So it was like, those were not the boots. Now you know why.
Yeah.
But it was like, and I wanted to say like, no, that's not him. Like, no. And he was looking at everybody, and, the way he talked to the waitress and everything. How many waitresses, this is 1971, how many waitresses now could you say, you have a couple aspirins? Sure, hon, I'll fix you up. And go, here you go. She brings them like on a little paper plate,
right.
And you see him taking the aspirins. That would never happen now, never. But people were people.
Right. I really appreciate that in that scene. And throughout the whole movie, we never see the truck driver. And I like how you said earlier, it almost, makes this kind of supernatural element to it. And I was a little worried, honestly, when we got to that diner scene. I'm like, oh, are we going to go there? Are we going to actually see the guys? Is this going to happen? Because I was already feeling that's kind of going to dim it for me. But I'm glad we never do. We never.
The movie was flawless in that regard. Yeah. Every time there was a potential for something like that, they never crossed that line. They never hurt us. The tension never released. It got more and more tense. Yeah.
Getting to the finale, where they have their little chase and the truck ends up going off the cliff. Maybe I'm making this up in my head and I got to see it again. But there was a moment where I was thinking maybe they would show the driver at the end here. Maybe it's not over, because it looked like when the truck went over, the door was open. So as it was going, so I'm like, oh, did this guy jump out? And there's going to be like the big scare at the end where he's going to come and confront him.
Now he's going to face him off man to man, right? After the vehicles are destroyed and, or see him climbing back up the cliff.
Yeah, something, you know.
That's what I expected. When he's looking down, I expected to see the door pop open.
Yep.
And it'd be like, oh, no,
Yeah, great. I do love how these movies, don't have a lot of fluff. All right, it goes over. He's there like, oh, yes, I made it. The sun setting in the background. He's perfectly silhouetted with the great orange sun back there just in the middle of the desert. And credits just start rolling. It's like, we're done. Nothing more to say or do. Just, all right, that's a wrap, everyone.
That was a really poetic ending because, okay, for the sake of the people watching, he gets to the point where he's trapped. There's a cliff. He's going to go off the cliff, right? So he turns the car around and he puts his briefcase on the accelerator so his car smashes head on into the thing. Once again, he leaps out at the last second. So this guy's pretty beat up. You know what made me laugh? He had a tie on through this whole entire thing. You wouldn't even think you'd put the tie on until you got to the engagement, right? But the whole right to the end, he's sitting there at the end, you still got the tie, like all the way tied, like this. So, wow, man, people were just comfortable that way. You couldn't even get me to put a tie on until I'm literally going into the building. It's like, all right, let's, But anyway, he puts the briefcase in so the car's moving. It smashes into the front of the truck. It explodes, which it wouldn't. Neither the truck nor the car would explode in that circumstance. There would be nothing to make that happen. And the truck driver is so committed that he can't stop in time of going off the cliff. And you see him shut the engine off and downshift and put the brakes on. You see his hand, you don't see his face, but you see every possible way to haul that massive weight down. That's 40 tons. You know what I mean? So and you see the truck doesn't go sailing way out there or anything. It just slowly like, oh my God. And then as the cab goes over, you see it's the point of no return. And then the big tank thing just comes down after it. And they show all that in super slow motion.
I love it. Just letting it all play out. No fast cuts or anything. Just here we go. We're just observing this whole thing happen. I love it.
And you see once it goes to the bottom of the ravine and smashes up, you see that the electric fan is still running, still hooked up to the battery, and it's running, right? And you see some kind of fluid dripping. You're not sure if it's brake fluid or blood, just a little bit dripping fluid. And one last tire, slow to a stop finally, and then you're thinking it's going to come alive again, But then Dennis Weaver, he jumps up and pumps his fist for a minute, and then he just sits down, and he's alone. There's nobody coming. It might be hours. It might be all night. He's just, and no one will ever know the ordeal that he went through. No matter how he tells it. Like if a police officer, you okay, buddy? This truck smashed my car off the road. Oh, that's a shame. Well, we'll take you back. It's like, no, it's not. It's a shame. Like it's a giant, I need a medal. You know what I mean? Like I need like a combat ribbon, for what I went, but no one will ever know. And at the end, he's just throwing rocks off the cliff. And I just think it's like the expression kick rocks. Like you're walking away from some terrible thing in the parking lot. You're just kicking rocks. You know, that's what I did when I saw the first Star Wars movie. I was so disappointed with it that in the parking lot, I was like, how could they do this to me? I fell for it, you know? But he's there, and that is a metaphor to me. That was a metaphor for what every man and every woman, what they go through. You have no idea. And you in your life, and you can't even imagine what I gone through, and I probably can't imagine what you have, the relationships, the jobs, the trials of all kind, the heartbreaks, the incredible victories and stuff. And there he is.
Us, yeah.
There he is. He's just alone in the desert. This amazing, never can be told story. You know, just imagine how many combat guys, some two snipers stalking each other for 2 days, and finally one of them opens the can, the sun glints on it, and the guy shoots him, right? Like one of those things. Like, there's no way on earth that you can know that drama, so that you got to see that guy's whole ordeal. It's an amazing gift. In real life, if that happened, he's the only one who knows. And you know what? When he gets home, I knew you wouldn't make it home in time for dinner. These kids, like, oh my God, the ordeal's not over, like I forgot about the epilogue to a bad day, right? And man, oh man, I was exhausted at the end of the movie. Yeah. What would he tell his insurance company? Well, the truck, I know. What was it doing down the ravine, Yeah. It was amazing to me to see that, knowing that it was a Steven Spielberg. I don't know that it was his first movie, but because he must have made shorts. He was in school. Yeah, I'm sure he made 12 minutes.
It was his first feature film. His first, his first.
And even the way it evolved, do we be like, should we even make it? Well, we'll put it on TV. Well, it kind of went over. Let's throw it in the theater and see how we do. And it's a movie that would be worth it seeing on a big screen, and had tremendous music.
Yeah.
It had once again, I love it when, there's music where it's like really weird, and then there's music where it's like symphonic, but when you have the combination, so they had periods of time. Another detail of the movie was you would have never had that radio reception out there. I'm sorry,
Right.
That wasn't happening. But they had, when the music is subliminal, when it's just something going bum, 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 it adds so much, and you don't even hear it.
Yeah.
It's not like they're playing Johnny Be Good or something on the radio and you hear the music, right?
Yeah.
But when you have those, just that da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, and this movie had plenty of that. Good horror movie music.
Yeah.
But not a horror movie, and not a disaster movie. Just a human trial.
Man, very well said. I'm not going to top anything you just said. You almost made me emotional with some of your. No, I was.
You see how good it works. You see.
Yeah. Anyone who hasn't seen this movie, highly recommend it. Yeah, go see if it's screening somewhere. Check it out. Rent it. I got the Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray looks so nice. It is crispy, perfect colors. Man, yeah, beautiful looking movie. Even by today. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great when they can remake something and really re-edit it, director's cut or whatever, and add stuff and make it like that. Now, see, now we're up against something that's a problem for me every week when we do this, and that is, I can't give the movie a 10.
Yeah, right.
I can't, because, compared to The Man Who Would Be King or something, but yet for what it was so damn flawless. I think I give Spielberg a 10. Yeah. The movie, 8. It depends if you like this kind of movie.
I feel like I want to go 6 on it. First time viewing. And I was thinking about that too as we were leading up to this point. Like, oh yeah, where do I put this? I'm going to give it 6, but it is a very high recommend.
Yeah, it's not
6.
a top end movie.
Yeah, but it's a good one, and especially I think anyone out there that if you're into certain directors and filmmakers and you're into filmmaking yourself, I think it's always cool to go back and watch some of the big time filmmakers, their first early projects, like their student short films or something like this. What's the first TV movie he did? And seeing kind of the seeds that would
just
grow into the guy that
he was at that time.
Yeah.
He wasn't really somebody yet. He was somebody enough to make this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it still had a budget.
Yeah.
Even though this was like a kind of a lower budget movie, still, if you wanted to make that, it'd be millions.
Oh, yeah.
Just the truck shots alone.
Yeah. No, it's executed so well, too. Whenever I watch action movies that have to do with car chase sequences, anything car related, right? I'm always blown away by, man, the amount of coordination and how many days do they spend just trying to get this little 5-minute piece. Well, and for him to be like first feature film out and to do that on what would have been a low budget. Right. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Like, they're clearly a talented
when that
person.
car was going down the road in the highway, there had to be somebody shooting that. Mm-hmm. There's no other road.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody was, and you could see the camera. The guy was like trying to keep up with the car. He's a little ahead, a little behind, a little ahead. And that actually added to the drama of the driving.
Oh, yeah.
Like how it was kind of, like it was a handheld.
Yeah.
It wasn't something on a rail or, some high-tech vehicle, helicopter coming in with the, like we have now.
Yeah, someone out there's doing it.
Right. Man. So, okay, 6 for you, 8 for me. Fair enough. It's so subjective.
Yeah.
But I agree with you to tell the audience, by all means, see Duel, 1971, Steven Spielberg. You won't be sorry. I appreciated it more now than I did originally. Originally, I was immature. I didn't appreciate half the cool stuff, but now I did. Yeah, I think reviewing movies is a wonderful thing for everybody. I think one of the things that we have YouTube and stuff, and you can see concerts from the past and stuff. Wow, that's what they did. That's what it looked like. That's what they had.
Yeah, yeah.
It's remarkable how it's not even nostalgic. It's perspective. Your perspective, seeing how great something was. This movie for me really delivered. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you all for watching the review. I hope you enjoyed the movie as much as Rudy and I did.